Chat was popping YouTube. So today we are going to be looking at the first ever James Bond novel, Ian Fleming's Casino Royale. So this book was first published in 1953, and let me tell you, for the time this book would have been groundbreaking. So let's just get into it.
Beef with a sheath and no and Blofeld with a cheek scar.
So the story revolves around James Bond. He's a... Why am I explaining who James Bond is? Anyway, James Bond is a super suave, sexy, overly competent male wish fulfillment character. He's a 00 agent from MI6, and he's in France to execute an absolutely bonkers plan. So basically there's this guy called Le Chiffre, who was an operative for this Russian communist spy organisation called SMERSH. He was working with these French communist guys and was mining their money for them. Unfortunately for Le Chiffre, he's financially fucked because he invested in French brothels and then they got made illegal. So now he owes the commies a lot of money.
You're poor. Interesting. Oh, you're broke. Yes, okay.
So in order to win it back, he's going to be playing a high-stakes baccarat game at the snazzy Casino Royale. So MI6 has decided that instead of just disappearing him, they are going to send an agent to go and win the money off of him and bankrupt him at Royale.
Not a great plan.
Why? Like, I don't care how good you are at gambling, like, this is a stupid plan. There's too much a chance involved. Like, why would this ever be the plan? Anyway, so 007 is put on the case, posing as a Jamaican plantation owner's son. He gets over there, meets his handler, a bloke called Mathis, and the eye candy for this book, a woman called Vesper. So, you know, Bond really wants to fuck Vesper, and he even names his cocktail after her. Shaken, of course, not stirred. Basically, he has a cocktail that he made up. I don't know, it's a scene. So anyway, James is just, you know, walking down the street, and a bomb goes off because some assassins were trying to get him, but SMERSH fucked them up with a bad bomb, and it went off too early, and then they killed themselves. So there's super competent super spies alive by pure luck. It's going to be a running theme going forward. So anyway, so Bond runs into this CIA agent called Felix, and he ends up playing against Le Chiffre in baccarat. He gets threatened by one of Le Chiffre's bodyguards, but, you know, manages to outwit him, then loses at baccarat to Le Chiffre.
Oh no!
Fortunately for him, Felix makes like the World War II Americans and bails the Englishmen out, and then Bond beats Le Chiffre and takes all his money.
Blow the whistle, baby, you the referee.
So Bond and Vesper have a little date night, but then Vesper gets kidnapped by Le Chiffre, and Bond gets kidnapped trying to save her. Bond then gets taken to this beach house by Le Chiffre, and, you know, Le Chiffre needs to know where the money is hidden. To get Bond to tell him this, he just starts smacking his dick and balls with a big, like, club thing, threatening to turn Bond into Theon Greyjoy.
Hey, I gotta get my dick sewn back on! You shut the fuck up!
But before Le Chiffre can, you know, castrate James Bond, a SMERSH agent comes in and kills Le Chiffre and his men and marks Bond up with a symbol so agents can identify him as a British spy from now on. But because, you know, his orders were not to kill Bond, he lets him live for some reason. And so Bond survives again by pure chance. Bond then goes and heals up and tries to get with Vesper, but she's acting all weird. He wants to quit spying, but then it turns out that Vesper was a double agent the whole time, as her beloved has been in a Russian prison for a while and they have been blackmailing her with him, but she ends up killing herself at the end.
Spell my name, the ladies wanna be on D.
So this book doesn't sound like much, and the plot is nonsensical, but for the time this thing would have been groundbreaking. The depictions of sex in this book are so modern that it must have been like actual pornography for the time. Fleming was a writer with basically no pretension. He knew exactly what he's writing, and that is nothing but escapist male wish fulfillment fantasies. So the book, which is very short and it's very easy to read, there was none of the over-the-top difficult prose that characterises many novels of the era, and there was none of the like ridiculously long chapters and stuff like that. This reads like a proto-Alex Cross novel in a lot of ways. The book itself would have been groundbreaking for the 50s. To have this level of violence and sex in a mainstream novel would have been very taboo. And, I mean, there's no actual sex in this book explicitly, but, like, for the 50s it must have been, like, pretty risky. And to be honest, even by today's standards, the violence is actually still pretty graphic. So the book itself is an interesting look into post-war Europe. There are some obvious anti-communist themes going on here as they were, you know, the villains of the decade, but I do have some issues. The book's plot is very shaky. Like, it makes no sense that MI6 would bother risking all their money for this. If it was an actual, like, mostly skilled game, I could see it, like chess, for example. But gambling seems too random to risk it, but whatever. James Bond himself is very boring as a character. You know, he's basically meant to be a pretty basic guy that the male readers can project themselves onto, but weirdly enough, he's not even that competent here. Like, he survives a bomb by pure luck, and he also gets caught by Le Chiffre pretty easily and nearly tortured to death. The Smudge agent is the only thing that saves him, and so Bond actually gets saved twice, not by his own skills as an agent, but just by pure luck. I mean, the Smudge agent is just a Deus Ex Machina. There is a scene during the gambling where Bond manages to, like, figure out that he gets, like, threatened by one of Le Chiffre's bodyguards, and he manages to figure out a way to get out of it, which really shows him to be a super competent super spy. But, like, the rest of the book doesn't really... Like, this scene is, like, the exception. It's not how he's characterized throughout. I'm also not sure how old Bond is meant to be here, so I did Google it, and he's meant to be 38, apparently. And, I mean, I would have placed him at about 10 years younger than that, but that's just me. But this book does manage to deliver an actually really good philosophical/political point that I was really not expecting going in. It actually does have something to say. I was expecting just complete filler. Basically, after Bond is rescued from the Chief, he talks with Mathis about wanting to quit spying, and he has this revelation. I'm going to quote it. This book's public domain. I think we're fine. Now, he looked up at Mathis. That's all very fine. The hero kills 2 villains. But when the hero Le Chiffre starts to kill the villain Bond, and the villain Bond knows he isn't a villain at all, you see the other side of the medal. The villains and heroes get all mixed up. Of course, he added, as Mathis started to expostulate, patriotism comes along and makes it seem fairly alright. But this country right or wrong business is getting a little out of date. Today we are fighting communism. Okay, if I'd been alive 50 years ago, the brand of conservatism we have today would have been damn near called communism, and we should have been told to go and fight that. History is moving pretty quickly these days, and the heroes and villains keep on changing parts. I mean, this is crazy, especially for the time, to so openly question the morality of the nation you serve, and to put it out there that, you know, everyone else working for the other countries is basically the same as you. Pointing out that if, you know, Bond is pointing out here that if he was born in Russia instead of the UK, he would have been a Smudge agent or something. And this can be translated into our modern day. For example, if I was born in Afghanistan, maybe I would view the Taliban as right because they are my guys. If I was born in Gaza, would I view Hamas as morally correct? If I was born in Israel, would I view the IDF as a good thing? If I was born in Russia, would I think that the West is evil and Putin is justified? Probably not. But then again, I don't think that the West is justified in a lot of things now that it sticks its nose in, especially when we have so many issues going on in our own countries. So yeah, while this may, you know, not be groundbreaking social commentary for 2024, it most definitely would have been for 1953. And to top it all off, Mathis ends the scene by saying, "Surround yourself with human beings, my dear James Bond. They are easier to fight for than principles." Which is, I mean, very true. When people are young, we are very opinionated, very ideological, willing to stand up for whatever we believe is right. You know, but when we get older, you know, people get families, people have to care for, and a lot of people tend to abandon those principles to protect said family, to keep their job, to keep food on the table. Rebellion and political posturing is a privilege of the young and the old, or to those with nobody to lose. Very, very good stuff from a book that I was not expecting to find an ounce of wisdom in. But overall, this book, it's not great by today's standards, but for the time, this thing is very, very good. And I mean, if you're a fan of James Bond, you should definitely pick this up. And I'd probably give it 4 out of 5 stars, which is maybe a bit generous, but I think when you review old books, especially, you sort of have to take into account when they were originally published. You can't quite compare them to a modern day book. So thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like and share and subscribe. And if you want to check out some of my work, head on over to my website. You can check out all my short stories that I have posted up on there. Let me know what you think of any of them. And my poll for my next round of book reviews is still up. You can still vote in it. I think Starship Troopers is winning right now. I'm going to a much more audience-focused version of this channel where you can vote for what you want me to review based on the polls I put out, and I will review the books in the order they're voted in. So if you want your voice to be heard on that, go over there and vote. Check it out. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.